Halo, selamat siang Insan Muda, selamat datang kembali di live streaming Adegan Nugra. Dan kali ini sama siang Mbak Volta. Kali ini gue pengen lanjutin kelas mahal ya, karena kemarin skip hari Kamis itu aku ada kegiatan. Seperti biasa jadwal kelas mahal itu Senin Kamis, dan jam gantinya gue belum tahu ya untuk hari Kamis yang minggu kemarin. Jadi ya kita lanjut aja dari yang lalu. Kita langsung nonton tutorial video Mbak, oke Volta. Salam Sigma semua. Selamat siang, oke? Halo Ramen, ini yang kamu tunggu-tunggu kan? Oke. Terakhir kita udah belajar. Bentar, ini 6 ya. Terakhir Kamis ke kelas maaf. Apa di kelas mal? Terakhir kita belajar. Oke, bentar, audio gue matiin dulu. Terakhir belajar tangan. Ini kenapa terang banget webcam gue? Sobat. Exposure turunin. Nah. Terus belajar apa namanya? Major scale kan. Nah. Ya itu kalian bisa nonton ulang aja, soalnya kalau gue recap panjang banget. So, kita lanjut aja langsung ke videonya Mas Andrew. Misalnya itu YouTuber bayar orang kecil pakai enggak yud. Enggak, makasih. Oke, ini intronya berisik, jadi gue mute dulu intronya.
Hey guys, and welcome to piano lesson number 3. Today we're going to be talking about chords. Things called triads, which are actually just 3-note chords. And I'm going to show you how to also play another scale. It's going to be a D major this time. And yeah, we'll use some D major chords. I'll show you how to do broken and solid. And that's what we're going to do for the lesson.
No.
Okay, so let's... Alright, so here we are at the piano again. Now, in the last lesson, I showed you the G major scale, and I showed you tones and semitones. So, in this lesson, I'm going to show you something called chords. And you've heard them a lot in piano before, or music, hopefully. If you haven't, that's fine. A chord is basically a group of notes that sounds good together.
Sekelompok not yang suaranya bagus, terdengar bagus.
Played in order that sound good together. A chord is actually a group of notes in that scale that sound good together. So an example would be, say we have the C major scale. We're going to use the first note, the third note, and the fifth note of that scale.
Yeah.
And that'll produce our tonic chord. So, as you notice, it's basically starting on the tonic. Ooh. Isn't that rocket science? So if you remember from the previous lesson, the tonic is the first note of the scale. So that's the bottom note of our chord is the tonic note. So we call it the tonic chord. Now this chord is the strongest out of all of them. And it's one of the only chords that you would use if you're playing a piece, right? So you're just messing around the piano and then you just want to end the piece. So you'd hit the tonic chord of whatever key you're in. And don't worry, you're probably thinking, oh, well, I'll never get to that point, but trust me,
cuman gue udah kebiasa. Ini salah nih, nggak salah sih, cuman harus dibiasain 135 ya, sesuai dengan urutan jarinya. Kan 1 2 3 4 5 chord itu rumusnya 135 dari major scale. Gini harusnya gini. Harusnya ini jari telunjuk gue nih ngangkat nih, harusnya gini tetap. Tapi ya begitulah, kalau belajar otodidak ya nggak ngerti teknis dan teori, akibatnya beginilah kebiasaan. Salah satu contoh major scale yang 135 juga, 1 2 3 4 5. Nah ini G. Gampangnya ya, kalau udah melibatkan kunci hitam, ini kan major scale-nya ada nih. Tonton semitonton 135 1 2 3 4 5. Nah ini chord D. Bukan teori pemutatan bro. Nah ini chord D gitu. Ini chord D mayor, ini C mayor, ini G mayor. Nah gampangnya sih gitu.
Within a month, maybe 2 months from now of solid practice, I'm thinking about an hour a day if you can muster, but you know what, even 15 minutes a day is better than an hour every 3 days. Okay?
Dan lebih baik belajar
day,
setengah jam per hari daripada 1 jam per 3 hari, teman-teman.
Even though you'd be getting more practice time that way, because it's more important for you to do it every single day. Okay?
Penting untuk belajar setiap hari, apapun itu ya.
So the chords, you will get to this point, and I just want to introduce this to you so it's not something brand new. And this is kind of fun too, when you can start doing chords. So, a C major chord starts on C, and it goes to the E. Now if you notice, all I'm doing is I'm just skipping a note. Yeah, and the reason I called it C major instead of a tonic is that's another name for it. Because look, it's on C, so it's C major chord. Now, the other main chord of C major is called the dominant. I didn't tell you this in the last lesson. But the fifth note of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that one is called the dominant. And it's the second strongest note in the scale, and it pulls you back to the tonic. So, whenever you want to end a piece, you can just be doing... Then you can hit a tonic chord, and then you can just hit, that was a dominant, and then dominant to a tonic. Now notice how that sounded kind of leaping. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to play a tonic chord, but we're going to move the G down here and keep the C and the E here. Now that sounds good. That's called an inversion. So, you're like, oh man, Andrew, you're just going to do is we're going to play a tonic chord, but we're going to move the G down here and keep the C and the E here. Now that sounds good. That's called an inversion.
Inversion? Inversion atau apa sih? Gue kurang dengar. Inversion, intrusion apa? Coba teman-teman yang pendengarannya lebih baik. Oke, coba ini gue masih belajar juga nih. Inversion ya, bukan inversion ya. Inversion, oke, inversion. Oh inversion, oh ya benar inversion. Inversion itu kan C major tuh C major tuh kayak gini. Tapi bisa juga C majornya kayak gini. Karena kunci major C itu antaranya adalah C, E, dan G. Nah, kalau misalkan kasarnya, gampangnya mah untuk ngejelasinnya, misalkan kita lagi main chord lagu, terus kita mainnya di daerah sini. Ini D, terus kita main di G, terus kita main di F. Misalkan kita dari chord G mau ke chord C. Dari G ke chord C. Chord C itu kan kayak gini. Yang bukan yang benernya ya. Ya chord C itu kayak gini. Cuman kalau kita main dari G sini terus balik ke C, ke ketinggian gitu. Bahasa gampangnya mah ketinggian gitu. Bahasa teorinya tadi apa gitu lupa gue. Jadi kalau dari G ke C-nya sini itu ketinggian, dari G ke sini ke C bawah juga terlalu rendah. Nah makanya kita main namanya inversion. G itu terdiri dari G, B, sama D. C itu terdiri dari C, E, sama G. Nah C itu juga kalau kita mainnya dari kunci G, jari satunya di G, terus kita mau kunci C, sebenarnya bisa aja. Soalnya kan G ini salah satu notes yang menciptakan chord C gitu. Ini tinggal pencet aja dua notes yang lainnya, itu adalah C dan E. Nah, jadi kalau mau main chord C itu nggak mesti dari sini. Nggak mesti dari C, E, G. Bisa di inverse dari G. Dari G, C, E. Gitu. G ke C masa? Ya gitu G ke C triton. Kagak triton kali, nggak tahu. Belum belajar tuh yang begitu tuh triton. Sebutan notes. Aku juga nggak bisa baca not balok baren. Apa ya? Kalau di piano tuh gampangnya ya mengenali mana A, B, C, D, E, F, G dulu gitu. Yang kemarin kan udah diajarin ini A, B, C, D, E, F, G ke A lagi, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, terus and so on. Mengenalinya itu juga gampang. Itu kan kalau umumnya main itu dari C, middle C, ini namanya middle C. Middle C itu ditemukan dari ada dua toots hitam di bawah sebelah kirinya itu adalah C. Nah, habis itu apalin aja. Gitu. Memang susah awal-awal, jadi ya bersabar lah. Biasa piano langsung to the point. Kalau udah soal notes saya angkat tangan. Kalau notes aku juga ini belum bisa belajar not balok dengan baik dan benar, makanya ini mau belajar di sini gitu.
So, you're like, oh man, Andrew, you're just going so fast now. All these inversions and whatnot and flipping it around. Don't worry, now I'm going to explain it.
Nah, ini dijelasin sama Mas
So,
Andrew.
an inversion is actually quite simple. All it is like, say you have building blocks, right? Have you guys ever played Jenga? It's like you take one block and then you put it on top. So what you're going to do, say these are 3 blocks, and we want to do an inversion like this. We're going to take this note, and we're going to move it over here. So
Ini kayaknya lebih jelas daripada gue jelasin
and
tadi.
now we're just going to play those notes. By the way, I'm only using these so you can see what notes I'm pressing down. Technically, you should be using your thumb, your second, and your fifth. But the rule with fingering is you just use whatever comes naturally or feels the best. So experiment a little bit. But generally, for most normal hands, unless you've got really small hands or really big hands, you want to be using the standard and fingering because it has proven to be the best.
Okay.
So, your thumb, your second, and your fifth.
Itu kunci C juga tuh.
Now the reason we do that is because it's a very natural stretch.
Tapi
If we use our third
dari
here,
satunya
it
kan
feels a little awkward.
di E.
Okay, whereas 1, 3, 5, that's just
betul.
one key per
Thank you.
note, or one finger per key. Anyway, okay, so an inversion is just moving the note on top of each other.
Moving the note on top of each other. Okay.
So there's actually names for inversions. So the first inversion, or this, is actually called the root, because it's like where you're staying. Then it goes to the first inversion,
Ini inversion pertama ke
and then
E.
the second inversion,
Inversion ketiga.
and then back to root.
Balik lagi ke akarnya.
So you can use chords like C major, but you can have them like this in any of those patterns. Cool, huh? So notice how each of them have a different sound. This one sounds very closed and final. This one has sort of a higher opening sound. And this has a really open sound.
Nah, penting juga tuh kalau mau main chord, misalkan main ya apa chord apapun lah, pindah-pindahan chord kan, suaranya walaupun dia kuncinya C, Om Dik pasti piano mahal soalnya mereka Yamaha kagak Yamaha men. Walaupun kita mainnya di C, dia tuh setiap inversionnya vibe-nya apa sih bahasa gue? Vibe-nya tuh beda-beda. Vibe-nya tuh beda-beda. Ini sorry. Ini C inversion akar. Ini C inversion 1, C inversion 2, C akar lagi, cuman beda oktav. Kan beda-beda tuh si vibe yang diberikan dari setiap inversion. Ini lagi kayak pembuka gitu, kayak ini kayak di tengah-tengah gitu. Gimana ya? Pokoknya beda aja kan suaranya. Ini balik lagi. Gua nggak tahu namanya apa tadi, yang dijelasin sama Mas Andrew. Sorry teman-teman. halo Lucius.
What?
Depan.
So those are called inversions, and they can be from every chord. Every chord has an inversion.
Setiap chord ada inversionnya juga sama.
Yeah, I actually didn't plan to get into inversions there, but whatever. As we go, that's fine. So, I mean, it's important to know what an inversion is. So, inversions are...
Jadi nggak perlu, buat teman-teman yang baru mau belajar banget, nggak perlu tahu inversion 1, inversion 2, inversion akar itu kayak gimana itu. Tapi yang penting kan apalin chordnya dulu. Dan ini buat ilmu tambahan aja, biar tahu apa sih itu inversion gitu. Over time, paham lah.
You'll notice in piano and music, there's a lot of huge words that sound very scary, but they're actually really simple. So inversion is just a different way of moving the notes around. So it's still all the same notes, because look at this. I have a C, an E, and a G. Now, if I'm playing this, what do I have? I have a C, an E, and a G. So I still have the same three notes, but they're just in a different order. How easy is that?
Inversion itu cuma beda urutan doang, chordnya mah sama gitu.
C, E, G, and now I just have E, G, C, G, C, E. It's sort of like taking the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, and then just altering those numbers into different orders. But it's the same 3 numbers. Okay, anyway. So, that is called a solid chord when you play all 3 down together. Now, to play a chord properly, you need to have all 3 or all the notes in the chord go down at the very exact same time.
Ini mungkin buat pertama kali main piano susah ya.
You don't want any of this.
Buat 3 jari.
Where like one note's going down, another isn't. Or like that.
Gue juga awalnya susah.
That's bad.
Tenang.
So you want to aim to have all notes go down and up together at the same time. Now, probably at first you're going to have difficulty doing these chords. And don't worry about that. You're going to do this exercise. Play the outside notes by themselves. So just 1 and 5. Then play the inside note. Then play the outside and the middle note. This is going to strengthen your fingers and get your hand used to playing these notes.
Latihan ototnya tuh.
After a whole bunch of time doing that, then you'll be ready to do this. And it'll take a while before you get a sound where you're actually happy with the sound. And then once you get more advanced, what you're going to aim to do is get all the notes going down at the same time, and then you're actually going to push forward into the keys, not just straight down. Because when you push straight down, you get kind of a banging, kind of like harsh sound. Whereas if you get push forward, it rounds out the sound and you get a nicer sound.
Ya berarti kalau macamnya kayak gini, suaranya lebih smooth.
So, now, those are called solid chords. Well, actually, technically, these are triads. All you have to do a chord is you're going to add. Now, some of you might not be able to do this if you're younger or you have smaller hands. Now, reaching an octave is going from C to another C. And I'd advise that you be really, really careful when you do this, because if you stretch your hands too much, you can get injured or do tendonitis. So just do it slowly, and eventually you'll be able to reach it, hopefully. And if not, don't worry, because you can still roll the chords. And I'll get to that in a later lesson. Okay, so if you do want to play this though, this is actually called a full 4-note chord. You're going to play the C, the E, and the G, and then just add whatever note is on the bottom up at the top. It's that simple. So then we go And now we're gonna do this one, this one, this one. And which note was on the bottom? It's the E. So we just play an E. And then
Hati-hati ya teman-teman kalau mau nyoba kayak gitu.
so those are chords. Those are solid chords. Now, there's another pattern of chords called broken chords. Now, can you guess what they're going to sound like? Well, you could take a sledgehammer and try playing the chords with the sledgehammer, and that would be a very broken chord because you'd have a broken piano. But that would be the wrong kind of broken. What we want to do is break the chord up. Like that. Instead of playing it all at the same time, we're going to actually play it broken. So it's going C to E to G.
Itu broken time maksudnya. Jadi dong cari makan.
So how we're going to do this is it's sort of the
Beda
motion
kelas
of
Jal,
turning
nanti.
a doorknob.
Maaf,
Have you ever
nak,
opened a
beda kelas ya,
doorknob?
nak.
I hope so.
Coba masuk kelas lain.
Otherwise, how would you get around in your house?
Ini lagi main
You'd have to be
piano
like-
nih.
Tell you like your husband or wife or child, open that door for me. And how would you ever get out of the bathroom? Anyway, so you turn your wrist and you rotate your wrist. So that's the motion we want to do with this, is we want a rotating motion. Because we actually want to use our arm to play the keys. We don't just want to use our fingers. A lot of people think that piano only has to do with your fingers. But actually it has to do with your entire arm starting way up at your shoulder. So, what we want to do is we're going to roll, so we're going to start with our thumb, play on the side of our thumb, go right to the bottom of the key, get a nice tone. Now go to the middle key, or I guess our middle finger, the third one. Now as we do it, we're going to roll our wrist like this. Now as you can see, I've got a little gentle roll. I'm not doing stuff like this. It's a piggy rolling around in the mud. Oink, oink, oink. Okay, back to work, piggy.
Gitu
Okay,
ya,
so
teman-teman.
it's just a nice gentle roll.
Oh, itu broken chord. Ini broken chord katanya teman-teman.
We want to use our we want to relax our hand and keep our muscles relaxed. Versus that. Now, which do you think sounds more easy on the ears?
Tapi tergantung juga ya teman-teman. Ada piece yang dimana dia
So,
butuh
it's all
neken
about
keras.
wrist motions.
Ada piece yang
It'll actually help quite a
butuh
bit if you
lembut
can think of
banget,
using your
keras
arm to play
banget.
the piano just
Jadi,
as much as your
ya
fingers.
memang
Especially in a
tergantung
real
piece.
piano,
Ya, kalau main
you can
klasikal
hear a big difference
sama
in
tergantung
how
kalau
all
main
the keys sound
pop
and how
juga,
it's
ya
all played
tergantung
if you are using your arm
pembawaannya
to play
mau
it.
slow
You can hear the
atau mau
subtle differences from your
ngegendreng.
arm than you can if you're just using fingers. Okay?
Tapi emang
Alright, so
kudu bisa
That's one
dua-duanya,
thing,
bisa
so it's
soft
rocking
sama
back
bisa
and
keras.
forth.
Itu makanya saya keduanya diperlukan.
so I would practice
Pas
that
daging
quite a
steak
bit.
lah kan wagyu.
Now, so that's the first one. Now we can go to the next inversion. We can do this. Now we're going to pull our thumb in and put it where the third finger was. And we're going to put our second finger out and stretch our hand out again, sort of like an accordion.
Oh
And
gitu
then
maksudnya.
as we roll over here, we're going to pull our thumb in and drop it on the G. And see how as I'm doing this?
Oh. Ah.
So it's a lot of rocking back and forth into those keys.
Nah itu gue
Just like that.
belum.
And I know it's not going to be just that easy when you first start, because trust me, I've been doing piano since I was 5 years old. I've been taking lessons since I was 5.
Nah, teman-teman dengarkan dia
And,
tadi piano sejak umur 5 tahun jangan down. Jangan. Buat gue juga jangan down ya. Karena belajar itu nggak ada yang namanya terlambat ya teman-teman. Walaupun dia mulai lebih early dari umur 5, dari umur 6. Nah, teman-teman mau belajar dari sekarang bisa, mau belajar tahun depan juga bisa. Kalau rajin ya. Jangan banding-banding sama orang lain dah. Yeah.
Doesn't just happen overnight. Sometimes there's a couple rough days and there might be some tears one day and you just gotta stick through it. And
You just
trust
gotta
me,
stick to it,
it'll all work
teman-teman.
out in the
Mau
end.
piano, mau apa.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, so that is triads. So that is broken and solid. You can do that with the left hand as well. Okay?
Jadi summary-nya sampai sini. Yang solid chord itu adalah yang dimana dia mencetnya barengan. Kalau yang broken itu yang satu-satu ya kayak. Oke. Ini broken katanya ya. Gua mah nggak tahu, gua mah belajar aja ngikutin Mas Andrew.
So my whole point was that you can use a
Tapi saya
dominant
nggak
chord
punya
because we can use this
kelas
in G.
editing. Aduh, kelas editing aja sama gua.
Now, do you know what the
sama-
beauty of all this is? If you know the
Sama
C
Ryu.
position,
Sama Dape.
see how it's white, white, white? If you go to G, to your
Boleh
hand,
kayaknya
it feels
nanti sama
exactly
Dape.
the same thing. So all you have to do is tell your brain this is the exact same motion. And you can do it in any of these white keys pretty much.
Duolingo, wah nggak tahu buat.
Because you can go, or you can go. Now, if you notice, that has a different sound. That has a minor sound. But I'm not going to get into majors and minors yet. I'm only covering majors right now. But the important thing is that you can play any of these basic chords. And you can do a lot with them, actually.
What the?
Alright, so that is chords. Now let's move on to the D major scale. So the D major scale
Oh, di major scale
starts
nih,
on
lihat nih.
D. Ooh, big surprise, huh? And it goes up to D. Now, we're going to follow the same pattern of the tones and semitones. This is sort of a review to see if you guys remember. So follow along with
Ini
me.
review doang nih sama
So we
Mas
need
Andrew
a
nih. Major
tone,
scale.
another tone. So that is a tone, is it not? Because there's something in the middle there. So we're skipping a link, skipping a link. Now we don't want to skip a link because we need a semitone. So that's a semitone. Now we need another whole tone. And another whole tone. And another whole tone. And a semitone. So we have an F sharp and a C
Review
sharp
doang ya
in
ini.
this scale. Up a semitone, E. Okay, so now the same way, if this is an F flat, if you're going down, E at the same time. So try not to get too confused because generally you're going to see it as written as an E. Very rarely called an F flat. That's one semitone up. Now, where would an F flat be? Sharp. And if you remember, a sharp goes like that. Okay. So the D major scale has an F sharp and a C sharp. And if you remember, a sharp goes up a semitone and a flat goes down. Now, to add a little bit more to the sharps and flats that we did last time, here's another helpful tip. Well, sort of more advanced.
Oke, gue jelasin
Now-
aja di major scale ya. Di major scale itu Oke. Rumus major scale itu kalau yang pada ingat itu adalah 2 full tone, 1 semitone, 3 full tone dan 1 semitone. Berarti kalau dari D mainnya 1, terus full tone pertama, full tone kedua, semitone pertama, full tone ke 1, 2, full tone lagi sama semitone. Semitone full tone itu notes melewati notes lain. Ini 1 semitone loncatannya. 1 full tone. Karena melewati 1 notes hitam. Kalau dari sini ke sini itu adalah 1 semitone karena di tengahnya tidak ada notes. Ini 1 semitone. Tapi dari sini ke sini ini full tone karena melewati notes F. Dari E ke F sharp. Oke. Rumus major scale itu 2 full tone, 1 semitone, 3 full tone, 1 semitone. Berarti kalau dari kunci D full tone melewati yang ini. 1 semitone, semitone, full tone melewati ini. Dari B ke C crash. Habis itu semitone ke D. Gitu. Kalau dari G full tone, full tone, semiton, full tone, semiton, mana? Sorry. Full tone, semiton, full tone, semiton. Kalau dari F, full tone, semiton, full tone, semiton. Kalau dari E, full tone, semiton, full tone, semiton. Gitu. Pokoknya major scale kuncinya itu ya. Full tone, semiton, full tone, semiton. Kalau kesulitan, lihat aja dari kunci C, do re mi fa sol la si do nya. Nah, hitung aja sendiri dari situ. Dari C dari do ke re, itu dia semiton. Satu full tone atau satu semiton? Oh, satu full tone. Ya udah, re ke mi full tone, mi ke fa semiton. Berarti full tone, semiton. Terusnya full tone 3, terus terakhir semiton gitu. Kalau lupa ya. Sebenarnya gampang, full tone, semiton, full tone, semiton gitu.
Say we have the F sharp, that's one semitone up. Now, where would an F flat be? It's the E. See? On the F, it goes one semitone down to the E. So this E is actually called an F flat. If you were playing an F flat, that would actually be an F flat and an E at the same time. So try not to get too confused, because generally you're going to see it as written as an E. Very rarely do you ever see F flats, so don't worry about it too much. Okay. This is more of the sake for filling in any gap.
Walaupun gini. Flat sama sharp ya. Flat sama sharp itu yang udah dijelasin sama Mas Andrew minggu kemarin juga. Kunci sharp itu adalah satu semiton di atas kunci tonic, kunci rootnya. Misalkan F ke F sharp. Nah, satu semiton ini F sharp. Berarti F flat itu di mana? Ini F flat. Tapi jangan khawatir teman-teman, nggak akan ada yang mungkin nulis chord F flat. F flat. Ini kan F flat, tapi ini juga E. Tenang aja, jarang banget pakai yang F flat karena sebutannya E. Ini bukan F flat. Sama seperti B. Ini C flat, C flat. Ini C sharp, C flat. Nggak jarang banget tuh yang nyebut B itu adalah C flat. Jadi don't worry too much. Kata Mas Andrew tadi.
Gaps that you might be wondering about. Okay, so now the same way, if this is an F flat, if you're going down, what if you're going up? So an E sharp. That's right, this is an E sharp.
Berlaku
so
juga sebaliknya.
This could be other than a C. It could also be a
sharp.
B sharp. And this B here could also be a C flat. Interesting, huh? So this is a C sharp, C flat. Now there's one last thing. There's sharps, flats, and then there's something called a natural.
Apa ini natural nih?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, I wouldn't worry about this too much, because this is actually the easiest one of them all. And if you follow along with the sharps and flats so far, you're going to find this one even easier. So when you hear a natural, all that does is it brings it back to whatever key that it's natural to. So here's an example. If you have a D natural, guess what note you play? A D. And an F natural is an F. And then an E natural is an E. And an A natural is an A. It's always going to be whatever it's called.
Ya, sebutan lainnya aja.
Anything. The only reason we have naturals is to cancel it. So say we have a D sharp, and then the next note we want to play they don't want a D sharp, say they are doing this, right, in the music. And so they've written an E, then they've written an E flat, an E and then say D sharp. So to take that sharp away, because right now it's being directed to this key, they need to write a D natural, and then I'll pull it back to the D, like that. So the D natural brings it back to whatever key, or the natural brings it back to the key. And that's what that's all about.
Oke, jadi natural itu katanya ya kunci asalnya aja gitu. Kalau ini decrease, natural D itu ini, natural C ini, natural E ini. Katanya ini berguna buat nge-cancel kalian yang di Twitter, nge-cancel apa kayak kunci dari habis dari crash atau habis dari sharp atau habis dari flat kan natural lagi gitu. Cuman kita belum tahu ya penggunaannya itu seperti apa. Mungkin di lesson berikutnya dari Mas Andrew akan ditunjukkan. Jadi mungkin sekarang itu dikasih tahu aja sama Mas Andrew, ini loh natural, biar kedepannya nggak pusing kalau udah dikenalkan dengan natural. So untuk hari ini, lesson hari ini kita belajar yang namanya solid chord. Solid chord itu adalah 135 dari major scale ya. Kalau major scale-nya C ini 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Nah, solid chord-nya itu adalah 1 3 5. 1 2 3 4 5. Berarti chord C, solid chord-nya adalah ini. Belum. Ini kita recap dulu. Ini solid C. Oke. Chord juga bisa dimainkan secara inverse ya. Inverse itu adalah chord yang sama cuma dengan urutan yang berbeda. Misalkan ini adalah inverse akar, ini inverse 1. Oke, karena C itu terdiri dari C, E, G. Inverse pertamanya itu adalah kita ngambil dari kunci C-nya, diambil, dipindahin ke oktav berikutnya. Oke, jadi kita mainin E, G, C. Gitu, sama aja sebenarnya. C, E, G, C, E, G. Sama-sama kunci C. Itu inverse pertama. Ini inverse kedua dari G, C, E. Sekarang kita ngambil dari kunci E-nya, diambil, ditaruh di sini. Ini adalah kunci C. Fungsi inverse itu apa sih? Fungsi inverse itu yang berdasarkan pengalaman gue ya. Kalau misalkan gue main dari kunci G, terus mau ke C, biar nggak terlalu jauh, biar gue pindahnya nggak kesini banget. Ya, sorry, G-nya bukan di sini deh. G itu di sini. Sorry. Ini gue tadi main G inverse 2 ini, sorry. Misalkan gue main G di sini. Nah, gue pengen ke C. Nah, kalau gue ke C-nya itu loncat ke sini, kejauhan. Kan kayak terlalu jauh gitu. Kalau gue mainnya kayak gini. Nah, gitu. Ini dari G ke C. Nah, sebenarnya implementasi inverse tuh kayak gitu, biar kita pindah chordnya nggak jauh-jauh, biar kedengarannya juga enak. Kok berdasarkan pengalaman gue ya, berdasarkan dari teori ya tadi cuma chord yang sama tapi tidak berurutan. Apalagi broken chords, gue nggak tahu fungsi dijelasin broken chords itu apa, tapi yang jelas broken chords itu adalah ketika kita mainin chords major apapun tapi tidak secara bersamaan gitu, memainkannya kayak gini satu-satu. Terus yang tadi Mas Andrew bilang itu yang itu gue, dia bilangnya broken chords, tetap broken chords, cuman gue masih belum tahu apa tujuannya dia kayak gini tadi. Mungkin kalau teman-teman ada yang memperhatikan atau ada yang ngerti bisa menjelaskan. itu inversion. Habis itu udah ya, habis major scale, chords, oh ya sama latihan mencet tuts piano gitu. Mencet piano itu yang tadi ya, latihannya kata Mas Andrew kayak gini aja dulu. Map 2 kunci dulu, 1 dan 3, terus 3 dan 5, terus 1 dan 5. Nanti kalau semuanya udah lancar baru digabungin 1 3 5. Pap gitu. Pesan penting dari messenger juga, kalau kita mau mulai latihan sesuatu itu penting banget setiap hari dilakukan, daripada 2 hari sekali atau 3 hari sekali dengan durasi yang panjang. Setiap per hari kalian latihan, mending setiap hari tapi nggak begitu lama gitu. Ini nggak berlaku untuk nggak cuma piano doang, buat kalian mau belajar apa juga bisa. Yang penting konsisten. Gue juga sedang berjuang untuk mempertahankan kekonsistensian gue dalam belajar. Namanya juga ya belajar dari awal, pasti yang namanya niat mah pasti bisa dikalahkan dengan apa teman-teman? Dengan mager. Nah bener, jadi tiap hari live stream kelas mahal enggak, ramen? No. Soalnya kan per lesson itu perlu kita serap dulu, ramen. Perlu kita latihan berhari-hari dulu. Jadi nggak bisa kita belajar ini hari ini terus besok move on belajar materi yang baru. Itu mendingan dikasih waktu dulu. Apalagi nanti kalau udah belajar circle of fifths yang kayak gitu, yang udah macam-macam, itu gue juga belum paham itu circle of fifths. Kayaknya butuh 5 hari atau 3 hari atau ya untuk lama untuk mempelajari dan untuk menghafalnya. Tapi yang pasti grind set, mindset sigma gitu. Sigma male gitu. Yeah. Sama apa tadi? Gue ngapain buka HP? Lupa gue tau kenapa buka HP. Ya udah, sekarang gue buka live chatnya. Ya, buat teman-teman kalau ada yang pertanyaan, gue kasih waktu sampai menit 45. Ya, kalau udah nggak ada pertanyaan lagi sampai menit 45, gue end stream karena gue mau melakukan hal lain. Jadi agenda enggak. Silakan teman-teman kalau ada pertanyaan. Udah gue buka live chatnya. Gue pendengaran gue belum perfect pitch. Jadi kalau gue mau ikutin lagu back sound itu gue belum bisa. Kayak piano. Kenapa emang live Yakuza nanti malam? Tanya apa ya? Tuh kan bingung. Suara lagunya kecil. Oke. Ada November. Wow. Kau belajar pakai not angka atau pakai not tangga? The fuck is that? Not angka, not tangga. Not angka, not tangga. Not tangga yang gimana nih? Oh, enggak, San. Gua enggak belajar pakai keduanya. Kalau dulu gue otodidak beneran. Kunci C di mana, kunci D di mana, kunci G di mana, etc. Crash kayak gimana, flat kayak gimana, minor, mayor kayak gimana. Gua nggak belajar piece, nggak belajar klasik dulu tuh, belajar pop jatuhnya ya. Jadi nggak pakai angka, nggak pakai not balok, gitu dah. Langsung kunciin, soalnya dulu otodidak banget. Yang nggak member nggak boleh harus mandiri. Nah ini makanya gue kasih ini nih kesempatan buat ngomong. Kayak kelas mahal emang buat member. Emang ketentuannya seperti itu. Ini buat non member ya udah. Wayahna. Aku nggak member biar bisa beli piano. Ngapain di kelas mahal tapi nggak ikut main piano. HBD Kaza ya. I mean you can watch it ya. Nggak apa-apa Kaza. Mana nih yang non member gue kasih ngomong, masa ngeluh member? Jangan lah. Kan namanya fitur pengen gue pakai. Ya serah gue lah. Ayo. Sampai menit ini deh, 48 deh. 1 menit. Itu Hasan sama Hilal ngomong, kan mereka mah mod atau beda. Aku sengaja gak member biar ngeluhnya lebih masuk hati. Gak apa-apa Kaza. Jangan dibawa ke hati lah. Kalau nggak tahu. Don't take anything serious. Jangan nggak sih. Don't take everything personally, Kaza. Ya. Udah nih, udah 47 deh. Apa sih? Gue 48, 47 tadi. Short term memory. Ya udah, gue mau end stream teman-teman. Makasih banyak yang udah nonton live stream kelas mahal hari ini. Jangan lupa kalau kalian mau belajar apapun itu, usahakan belajar tiap hari ya. Usahakan jangan bolong. Semangat terus. Belajar butuh waktu. And makasih moderator yang sudah memoderasi live streaming hari ini. Makasih yang udah mau belajar juga. Kita bertemu lagi di live streaming berikutnya. Sore gue gak tahu ya. Sore main Fallout atau gak tahu. Yang pasti habis ini gue mau ngurus hal-hal lain dulu. Malam yang pasti Kiwami. Dan gue pengen nyobain lagi ngapain nih, lagi main piano tapi udah beres. Kayak gue masih di Discord. Tiba-tiba nggak tahu ya. Jangan lupa join Discord gue ya, yang belum join Discord. Kalian bisa belajar ya. Itu masuk Discord itu gratis. Ya, udah gue bikin juga. Udah ada temen gue dan moderator juga udah merancang, udah ada teks channel buat belajarnya juga. Jadi silakan pakai dengan baik dan benar. Ada di tes. Nanti kita belajar bareng atau ngobrol bareng, ya. Ya, gue mau nyoba. Gue sepertinya mau nyobain yang live stream 2 game itu lal yang gue yang tadi bilang. Yes. Belajar buat mobil. Aduh, gue ya ntar dibikin lagi dah, soalnya otomotif gue kurang ngerti otomotif. Ya, sorry. Gue nanti malam kayaknya mau nyobain abis main Kiwami. Terus lanjut main apa gitu. If that makes sense. Soalnya gue mau nyoba live stream 1 jam daripada main game 2 jam full. Tapi itu nanti gue pikir-pikir lagi. Aja. Soalnya gue nggak tahu apakah itu akan works atau enggak. So nggak tahu nanti malam apakah nunggu Kiwami 2 jam atau Kiwami 1 jam terus ya 1 jamnya lagi main yang lain. Nggak tahu. Umuri gue belum, game yang mau gue mainin setelah Kiwami juga belum gue download. Oh, 76. Kalau 76 tuh gue rencananya mainnya the weekend, bukan di weekdays. Terus nunggu si Obama juga tuh. Obama tuh belum online lagi. Kayak lagi sibuk juga tuh. Udah kali gak Kiwami 3 jam tuh. Takutnya kalau gue main live stream 2 jam sampai 3 jam tuh kelamaan. Tapi ya itu, I'm just saying, I don't know if I'm gonna do it tonight or some other day. Yeah. sekarang satu chapter aja ya, satu chapter terus ngerjain game lain gitu ya Yud ya. Udah nanti gue pikirin dulu malam kayak gimana. So ya, sekali lagi terima kasih penonton. Gue mau stream, penonton yang udah nonton live streaming ini makasih. Jangan lupa join Discord TTS, ada linknya di deskripsi. Thank you benar terus sudah memoderasi live stream kali ini, dan kita akan berjumpa lagi di video atau live streaming berikutnya. Mau nanya apa Put? Discord aja Put. Dadah. Thank you, mau istirahat, silakan istirahat.